Hey everybody, my name's Peter and welcome to Mod My $225 Honda Civic supported by eBay Motors, where we're gonna save this car from the scrap heap. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and why don't you take a moment and browse around our other playlists to see some of the other higher end builds that we do. But with this car, it has got a pretty cool backstory. My neighbor came to me one day, because I've always got cool cars in the driveway, and said, hey, I'm about to scrap this Civic. Would you be interested in doing something with it? I don't want it to go to the junkyard. And I thought, you know what? Man, I don't know. We've got a lot of projects going on. Then I saw this thing and I thought this would be perfect for a quick rebuild and obviously saving it from the scrapyard because it is in decent shape. It's actually not that bad at all. This is a 2004 Honda Civic DX, so it's kind of a base model. It's an automatic. It has 129,000 miles on it, so just over 200,000 kilometers. And he was actually offering it to me for free. He said, you can have the thing, but I just felt so bad. I couldn't take a free car. I told him, I'll give you scrap value, which is around 225 bucks US or $300 Canadian. And he was, he said, sure, why not? So here we are. And I've been driving it a couple times and I realized the first problem that we have with this thing, and the most apparent problem, is that there is a rather loud exhaust leak, and I think it's coming from the front exhaust manifold. So let's get this thing onto the hoist and then we can look at it. And let's get this thing fired up. So hit it, DP. Let's listen. Oh yeah, you heard it right there. Yep, all right. Shut her down there. I've heard enough. So that is a very common problem on this generation of Civic, is that the exhaust manifold cracks. We do have a fix, but we've got to pull this thing off. This being a Canadian car, it has a ton of rust, and I need to remove the heat shield here first, which means these bolts need to come out, and I don't want to snap these. If these snap, we're going to be in big trouble because they go directly into the cylinder head. So what I am reaching for is this, the bolt buster. I have been using this for many years now, and this is a heat induction tool. So what this does is just transfer heat directly into the bolt, which is going to allow me to heat it up to a point where it should loosen it free of rust. Okay, now we've got that bolt nice and hot. It's tight, not a good sign. So let's see on this side, this bolt, yeah, this bolt is moving. Thank goodness. Coming in with the heavy hitter now. The bolt buster was not getting to the point where I think it was putting enough heat into it, so it is time to bust out the acetylene torch. Cross your fingers, guys. Oh my goodness. It's not. Oh my goodness. I decided to cut the top portion of the heat shield off here. Heat, and more heat. Oh yes, look at that. Finally. All right, here we have it. Our exhaust manifold. Like I mentioned before, you can see the cracking that had happened all the way around here. Might not be super easy to see, but there's certainly a very large crack there. Here is the replacement, and of course I sourced this through eBay quickly and easily. In the My Garage feature, you can actually add your own vehicle, so I put in 2004 Civic, and when you search for stuff, it just comes up with everything that fits, which was nice and easy. And this is a Dorman unit, which is a little bit more expensive than what you would find with the cheaper units out there. And the reason I went with this is I know that these are prone to cracking, so these are made with more quality. They have a higher quality catalytic converter, so they will last. The temptation is to cheap out on something like this because it isn't a sexy performance item, but you really want to spend your money wisely and get the quality product, and this Dorman one is the way to go. So now I'm going to fit it up. It also comes with all of the gaskets, nuts and bolts to make this work, so that is the beauty of it. So as you guys just saw, of course, we were gonna replace the exhaust system, and this is a Yonaka Motorsports all stainless steel system that is 2.5 inches versus that tiny pea shooter 1.5 inch stock system. And man, it is absolutely fantastic. It bolted up so well, and it was only $4.99 on eBay, which is a smoking deal for the quality of what you're getting and a stainless steel product that isn't gonna rust. Ooh yeah, listen to that thing purr. All right, let's jump out back and listen to this exhaust. And it's got the perfect amount of sound. I can tell it's got that nice deep tone, not gonna drone. It's got a resonator, this large muffler, so this Yonaka system's perfect. Let me give you a couple of revs though. There you go, like I said, this is the perfect street exhaust.
Now that Pete's added some noise out back, it is time for the younger, handsomer Speed Academy dude to add some noise out front. Because look at this intake box, everyone. It is gigantic. You could use this as a boat, as a boat anchor. It is massive. It's a giant resonator. It's probably very restrictive and kills any kind of exciting noise that might come from the front of this engine bay. So to fix all of that, we are going with this AEM cold air intake. It has this very nice gunmetal finish on it. Uses their patented dry flow air filter, which makes horsepower and is serviceable. You can wash it and you don't have to re-oil it after the fact. Just let it dry and slap it back on there. Well, that didn't work out quite as planned, and there's a good reason for that. This intake was designed for a manual transmission car. This being an automatic transmission, there's some design differences down here. The actual physical dimensions of the transmission are a little bit larger. There's some brackets and stuff that are different on the automatic versus the manual transmission. So as we looked at fitting it down into the location where it would go with the manual, it just didn't fit. And it was gonna be jammed in there in a really awkward place where it wasn't really gonna be drawing cold air anyway. So the simplest solution was to just shorten it, put the filter up here, and we've added back in this little stock funnel, which is going to draw cold air from the fender like it did for the stock airbox. So at least we're feeding it some cold air up in this area. And being shorter and closer to the engine bay, we're going to get more induction noise inside the car, which is kind of the point with an intake like this anyway. It should make a bit of horsepower, but really it's fun because it makes some induction noise. That of course means that our $313 AEM intake, which we bought off of eBay, is now about a $200 intake. It's a little bit shorter. We will put links in the description to all the parts we're using in this build, and we'll also keep a tally of the total build cost. So at the end of this episode, you'll see our total cost up to that point, and then in episode 2, you'll see us finish the build with a complete budget tally, so you'll see the, the complete cost of this build. While we're under the hood, we're also gonna give this thing a quick tune-up, because we don't know how old the spark plugs are. They're probably pretty old. We don't know a lot about the car's history, but we're guessing as a daily driver, it saw some action. So spark plugs out, new ones in, quick oil change, and then we'll move on. And I don't know how well you can see, but the electrode is really worn down, and you can see there's a bunch of rust where the porcelain meets the body here too. So these have definitely seen better days.
Those are toasty.
Here's our freshies in here. Man, it's really oily over here. Pretty sure we've got a bad valve cover seal. Pretty common problem on Hondas like this. So just undid the PC line there, and boom.
She's grimy.
She is grimy. It's not terrible in there though.
No, actually the valve train here looks pretty clean, so that is a good sign.
And there we have our new seal in there. We even did the spark plug seals and threw a little Honda Bond on in the oil.
Giving this thing the full treatment.
And look at that. That's what a parts cleaner can do in a little elbow grease.
Damn, DP, that thing looks almost as good as new.
I think I added a few horsepower right there. Just tuning that cover up, and man, does that look good or what?
That looks amazing, honestly. And we haven't even washed this thing.
Yeah, it's gonna look even better when we wash the bay. Obviously, we just gave these covers a quick cleanup. And by the way, quick pro tip here, if your ground strap looks like this hot mess, Looks like it's been chewed on by rodents or just a lot of exposure to road salt and all that good stuff. Swapping a new one because this can lead to all kinds of electrical issues, gremlins, things that you don't want in your life.
We are on to one of my favorite parts of modifying a vehicle, and that is coilovers. So we are gonna remove the factory suspension here, and as you guys just saw, I was popping out the factory tie rod using this ball joint removal tool. It's really good. So now we've got 2 nuts and bolts here and 3 up top, and this should come out. Bam, there it is. To replace that rusty old suspension, we are going with our go-to Honda coilover from K-Tuned. This is their Street Series, which is completely ride height adjustable, which is what we like. And of course, it's got camber plates and 32-way dampening adjustment, so it's gonna dial in perfectly. I love when an install goes as easy as this. So now it is time we move on to the back. Out back here is pretty much the same procedure. We've got 2 nuts up top to remove and 1 bolt, and this will be out. And just like that, there is our old shock and spring. Man, look at it, rusty mess. The K-Tuned is in, and if you'll notice, for good measure, we changed out that crusty old drum brake for this new one.
While Pete was busy out back, I swapped on some fresh brakes up front, and initially I thought, maybe they don't need to be done because the rotor looked, okay. It looks kind of rusty here, but it doesn't really have like a severe lip on the front side. Actually, there's really no lip. But then when you reach around the back, you do feel a bit of a lip forming there. So I figured let's pop the caliper open and see what kind of condition the pads are in. You can look in there and see the front pad, and you can see, there's a decent amount of material on there, and it's not like crazily unevenly worn or anything like that, which might suggest, your caliper sliders are seizing up. But then when you look at the inside pad, this bad boy's got some taper. It's really thin on this end versus this end. And that's pretty typical of your caliper pins starting to seize up a bit, and it's causing the pad to kind of it binds and it just causes uneven pad wear like this. And I mean, there's just not much material there. So it's good we opened it up and had a good look. That is it for the front brakes, which means I think we can put the wheels and tires back on and lower this thing on the ground and see how it looks. Woo! Look at that, everyone. What a difference it makes to lower a car. There's few things that have more visual impact than doing that. And man, this thing looks so much cooler already. I'm kind of blown away. And we obviously still have lots more of cosmetic stuff coming your way. But because everybody wants to know how much these kinds of builds cost, well, we're gonna give you a cost breakdown of where we're at so far. The car, as we mentioned earlier, was $225 US. I'm gonna do this all in US pricing. The most expensive part we put on it are the K-Tuned K1 Street coilovers, coming in at $1,000, or $999.99 to be exact. After that, there's the exhaust manifold with the built-in catalytic converter. As we mentioned, we went for like a high quality one at $601.95. AEM intake was $313. The Unaka exhaust system was $499. And those Denso double platinum spark plugs were a whopping $30.99. Plus I did order $100 worth of new brakes from our local WD. And that brings us up to a grand total of $2,700 and $2,770. So that's where we stand right now. And obviously with the next episode coming up where we're gonna do wheels and tires, as well as some other cosmetic stuff, that number will grow, but you're gonna have to check in on that episode to see where we end up. Well, that's a wrap on part 1 of this 2 parts, saving this $225 Civic from the junkyard, and I'm pretty stoked how it's turning out already. Of course, you will see it all in the next episode and how it turns out. And thank you, eBay Motors, for supporting this build. We're really excited to be working with you, and for all you guys out there wondering where you can get parts that we're using, obviously there will be links in the description to all the parts that we've used off of eBay, and they even have a eBay Motors blog where you can see some of the most interesting stuff that they have for sale there, including a space shuttle cafe. So thank you again, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. By the way, we should thank our buddy Moose for making us these sweet wheel cradles just out of some spare 2x4s he had kicking around. It's a really great way to lower your car onto a stand so that it's not being held up off the ground with a lift if you've lowered it as aggressively as we've lowered this, and it costs you next to nothing.